Hi, I'm Tara, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make these adorable little felt monsters. If you're already a sewing pro and are just here for a pattern, click the link in the description box below. To make your adorable little felt monsters, you'll need the following materials. Felt for the body, eyes, and whatever other accessories you might like to include. All-purpose thread, a thicker embroidery thread for the mouth, a small needle for the regular thread and a large needle for the embroidery thread, a couple of straight pins, and a good quality polyester stuffing. Finally, you'll need a pattern. You can make your own, or just click on the link in the description box below to check out this pattern and many more. The first step in making your felt monster is to cut out all the pieces of felt that you'll need. Simply pin the pattern to the felt and cut carefully around the edges. Repeat for the front and back of the body, as well as any facial features and accessories you want to include. Now it's time to sew all of these bits onto the front layer fabric. Cut off a piece of string about the length of your arm and thread one end through the needle. Tie a very large knot on the other end. To do this, wrap the thread a few times around your finger, roll it off and pull it tight. You want to make sure your knot is very large so that it doesn't pull through the felt. Now you can either use a running stitch or an overcast stitch. I'm going to show you how to do an overcast stitch. Begin by coming up through both layers of fabric and then go back down through only one layer. Come up again a few millimeters away through both layers of fabric and go back down through just one layer. Continue in this manner, making stitches a few millimeters apart and perpendicular to the edge of whatever it is you're sewing onto your monster. Once you've come full circle, it's time to cast off. Flip the felt over, then push the needle through a pre-existing stitch. But before you pull tight, go through the loop you just created. Once again, through a stitch, then through the loop, and pull tight. Snip off the excess, and voila, an eyeball. To make the smile, use a thicker embroidery thread. Tie a knot at one end, and thread the other end through the larger needle. I find it easiest to draw on the smile before stitching. Now I'll show you how to do a backstitch. To make a backstitch, begin with one regular straight stitch. Then, bring your needle up one space ahead of the stitch and move backwards down through the hole of the previous stitch. Continue in this manner until you've reached the end of the smile. Now use the same thread to sew on the pupil. Push the needle up through all the layers of felt and back down again a few millimeters away. Repeat in a crisscross pattern. To cast off with the embroidery thread, simply pull apart the strands of thread and tie using a regular knot. Now once again use overcast stitch or running stitch to sew on any remaining facial features and accessories to your monster. To sew the front and the back of the monster together, I'll show you how to do blanket stitch. Begin by threading your needle and tying a knot at the tail end. Now send the needle up through one layer of fabric a few millimeters from the edge. Hide the knot between the two layers of fabric. Then wrap the thread around and come up again through both layers of fabric at exactly the same spot. Now you're ready to begin the blanket stitch. Come up through both layers of fabric a few millimeters away from the first stitch, but before you pull the thread tight, go through the loop you just created. While you're doing this, you may want to use a straight pin so that the pieces of felt stay aligned. Continue in this manner up through both pieces of felt and through the loop you just created. Remember to pull snug at the end of each stitch. Continue with the blanket stitch all the way around the monster, leaving just a small opening for stuffing. Set the needle aside, and now it's time to fill the monster. Tear off a very small piece of stuffing and begin by filling the smallest limbs. I find the eraser end of a pencil works very well for this. When you're done stuffing the smallest limbs, use larger chunks of stuffing to stuff the belly of your monster. I like my monsters to be very plump. To achieve this, I make sure that my stitches are tight and close together so that the stuffing doesn't peek out through the edges. When you're done stuffing your monster, pull the edges together and continue with blanket stitch until you reach the beginning of your line of stitching. If you're having a hard time sewing evenly spaced stitches, try marking the stitch width on your thumb. Using this to measure will help you to create beautiful, professional-looking, evenly spaced stitches. When you reach the beginning of your line of stitching, sew over the first few stitches again to secure. Then, tie a few knots by sending the needle through a pre-existing stitch and then through the loop you just created before pulling tight. Finally, push the needle into the side stitching and out through the back of the monster. Snip off the excess. This will ensure that the tail of the thread remains hidden. And voila, an adorable little felt monster to join the gang. Make sure you click on the link in the description box below if you want a pattern for this monster or so many more. And don't forget to give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and found it useful. Feel free to leave a comment down below if you have any questions or constructive criticism. And don't forget to subscribe for more awesome videos like this. See you next time. Bye!